You're listening to the Health and Happiness Podcast with Travis Kemper and
Lauren Maxwell. Each episode, we share easy to implement strategies to improve your health, happiness, and overall quality of life. Aging is not lost youth, but a new stage of opportunity and strength. Betty Friedan. How's it going, Travis? What have you been up to this week?
I'm good. Just more hitting my goals, going for stuff. Moved to 80 pull-ups per day, 3 days a week. So I got to do tomorrow because I didn't feel like doing pull-ups earlier this week. But I got the football practice one day this week, which is fun. We just started lifting again for the upcoming season. It was great to see the kids again. They're already psyched and working so hard.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yes. And I spoke with my boss today about switching to part-time so I can focus on building my own business and coaching more for football.
Wow, that's super exciting. Congratulations.
I'm super excited. Unfortunately, it may take a couple weeks because we have a lack of PTs in this area, small town life, but hopefully soon. I will be off on Wednesdays, and then we're talking about like a flex day on Fridays where I can work some Fridays and not others, which will allow me to get to hopefully most of the football games, if not all of them.
That's awesome. Congratulations. That's so exciting.
Yes, thank you. How's it going?
It's going pretty good for me. It's been a super busy work week. Lots of summer groups started this week. We did our very first Zumba summer. Where did the B come from? Zumba summer group, which is taught by a certified Zumba instructor, but I co-lead it. So I get to work with all the kids who are following the Zumba instruction. So cool. Much fun, such a good workout. Holy cow, I was dying. And I was like, I don't know how these kids are doing this. All of my kids who attended were pretty incredible and they were so happy. It was such a fun class. Awesome. We also did our playground group, which was really fun. I had one of my littles come, which was really fun because the little kid that I was working with, he's about a little older than 2 now, but I've been working with him since he was younger than 6 months. And he said my name for the very first time during playground group. And it wasn't even I wasn't like, can you say Lauren? It was just spontaneous. We were just playing and he was sitting and digging in the dirt and he was like, Lauren. And I was like, what? Wait, what?
And then you cried, didn't you?
And then I cried and then his mom cried and then everybody was crying. And then I told everybody at the park whether I knew them or not. I was so excited.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad that you had that experience, and crying's very healthy. So that's good.
Yeah, I cry all the time. I'm very healthy.
Right. I am apparently not very healthy. Although I just had a life insurance test because we took out all these loans, and apparently I'm super healthy, and my blood pressure, with all of this stress in my life, my blood pressure was 109/73 or something.
Look at you.
Yeah. So what I'm doing is apparently working.
Apparently. You don't need to cry to be healthy.
I guess I'll keep doing it.
Keep it up.
Yeah.
So what are we going to talk about today, Trav?
I'm super excited because this one is near and dear to my heart because these are my people. We are going to talk about the misconceptions and beliefs about aging in our society. So go ahead.
What are those misconceptions?
Well, society basically tells us what? Old people are weak. Old people have poor memories and can't learn. And we just flat out get weak and lose the ability to learn as we age, no matter what we do.
Man, that sounds terrible. Is any of that true?
It does sound freaking terrible. And that's what we tell everybody. And no, none of it's true. We have a ton of research to back up that almost none of this is true. It's just, we'll go into the research here.
Yes. I love how fired up you are right now. This is awesome. So as Travis said, there is a ton of research on this topic. But let's go ahead and start at least with the mental aspect. Is there anything that we can do to boost our cognitive ability, or are we really doomed, like the myth says, to lose our memory and not be able to learn?
Probably doomed. You're probably just going to get old, dumb, and weak. No.
Joke's on you, because one of the studies that we found from the APA is actually, it's a really awesome study. So it had 2,800 volunteers, and they were all assigned to one of three training conditions. Those training conditions being memorizing lists, reasoning, and visual concentration. And then they compared those three training conditions to a control group where no training occurred. 5 years later, after this training, they compared to the untrained controls, the participants in each training group, in each one, still showed a significant performance advantage on learned thinking skills.
Now, hang on. You're saying 5 years.
5
So these
years.
people are 5 years older, dumber, and they're still doing better?
Yeah, apparently they are not dumber.
Crazy.
They are still, I know. And 5 years is a long time. I don't think most studies even go that far into their like longevity, but
well, I mean, if you listen to society, all these people are dead. So of course you can't go 5 years. They're all dead or have dementia.
Travis is spicy today. I like it.
That's awesome.
I know, it's so cool. And not only that, but in addition to that, there was evidence that training transferred to real world skills. Participants in all three of the training groups reported fewer limitations in performing tasks of daily living than the participants in the no training group.
That's crazy. So just this training for memorizing, reasoning, or visual concentration.
Yeah.
Translated to making life easier.
Real life. 5 years later.
What's really crazy about that is you're talking performing tasks of daily living, which is tasks of daily living is physical.
Right.
That's like getting out of bed, making your bed, cleaning your room, doing your laundry, cooking your dinner, stuff like that. So that stuff wasn't trained at all.
Right. The physical part wasn't trained. Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
Yeah. Gosh. This is a really cool study.
These poor old people. You have another line here that says researchers have found that when people think they can do it, a concept known as self-efficacy, they perform better.
Makes sense.
So that totally makes sense. And we've talked about that a lot on the podcast. If you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And yeah, apparently that translates into, being elderly as well as, just for me and you and when I was on the football field and things like that.
Yeah. Carries through your whole life.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Super cool. So another study. Well, this one isn't really a study. This is just from WebMD about memory loss and aging. And they just had a quick note that I liked about aerobic training, which has been studied over and over and over again. There's huge amounts of evidence for this, but aerobic training increases the supply of blood to the brain. It increases the supply of blood to everywhere in your body. But specifically in the brain, this spurs the development of Specifically in the brain, this spurs the development of new neurons and forges more connections between them. So the new neuron thing is actually very new science that we didn't know maybe until, I don't know, probably definitely within the last 10 years, maybe within the last 5 years, we didn't know that you could actually build new neurons as an older person. So what that means is you can continue to learn new tasks and they see these changes in your brain. The new connections is something that I use all the time because I deal with a lot of patients that are recovering from some brain injury, whether it's a traumatic brain injury or usually a stroke, which is essentially the same thing as a traumatic brain injury.
Right.
You have to make new connections in your brain because if you have a stroke or a traumatic brain injury, literally one part of your brain is dead. So you have to make new connections and develop new neurons in order to do tasks that after your stroke you cannot do.
Wait, so you're telling me that old people can learn?
Old people can learn, yeah. I don't know what your definition of old people is, but all people can learn. So I think they fall into that category.
Yes, all people can learn.
And in that WebMD article, they suggested 45 minutes of moderate aerobic exercise, such as walking 3 times a week, will help you greatly in building new brain connections and new neurons.
Yeah. Which is awesome. So how can we apply this research? First, it's important for people in middle age to relax and know that it's okay to do things like writing to-do lists and organizing their living spaces to support their changing memory. But second, it's important to realize that you can do things to help your memory, including training it and aerobic exercise and doing those kind of things, coming up with mnemonics and routines and visualization, stuff like that can help boost your memory.
Lauren, I find this crazy. It's okay to use to-do lists if you're middle-aged.
I use to-do lists.
I do too, every day.
Everybody can use to-do lists. This is not something that like is only for old people.
Yeah.
Like it's for people.
I write things down all the time in order to remember to do them because they slip my mind because I have so much going on every day.
I literally can't remember what I'm doing if I don't have my planner.
It's probably because you're old.
I'm 30. Okay, so it seems like there's enough evidence to debunk this myth that there's nothing that we can do to help our cognitive ability and memory as we age. So what about the strength aspect then? Is there anything that we can do to not be weak old people?
Definitely not. We're just going to get old and weak. You just lose all your strength. My job is completely pointless.
Irrelevant.
Because you can't gain strength as you get older.
How do you have a job right now?
I don't know. It's all a scam. Lauren, there's tons of studies also that look at strength. This is a new one. Like we haven't been studying this that long, which is crazy to me. Because we just accepted this nonsense that you can't build strength and you lose God, in PT school. In PT school, we learned that after 25, you gain a pound of fat or lose a pound of muscle or something like that every year.
It all goes downhill after 25 is kind of what I came away with.
And we act like that's normal. Because it is normal in our society because we stop working out. It's not a predetermined thing. I'm not going to lose muscle because I turned 25. Well, I'm over 25. I can do more pull-ups than ever.
Right, exactly. Like you're not, if you continue to live and like work out and do the same things as you move through your life, 25 is irrelevant.
Yeah, we just in general you get a desk job at 25. You sit on your butt all day, then you come home and you watch Netflix.
You know what made me do that was PT school.
You mean a desk job?
I just sat at a desk all during PT school. Like,
yeah, that's a desk job.
It's a desk job. And that's all I did. And then my life got exponentially better once I graduated and actually got to be active during my life. Imagine that.
It kind of helps. Anyway, so we got studies that looked at.
We got studies
that looked at older men, which average age was 80 years old in this one study, and younger men, which average age was 26 years old, and older women in their 70s compared to 20-year-old women or women in their 20s in that decade. And both studies found that there were no major differences in intrinsic strength activation or firing rates of the muscles of healthy men and women at any age.
Boom.
Yeah.
Do we need to even continue? Because I'm pretty sure that right there just debunked that myth.
Yeah. So these studies are all over the place. I mean, at one point they noted that contractile speed, like that would be power, which is probably because you didn't train power. Power is how fast you can move. How fast you can apply force would be the best way to describe power off the top of my head, rather than, a slow controlled movement. So contractile speed was only 10% slower in the 80-year-old men than it was in the 26-year-old men on average. And you know what the 80-year-old men probably didn't do?
What?
train for power
You're right.
ever since they
Probably
were
right.
18. That's my
Oh my gosh.
guess.
That's
I'm
amazing.
totally making that up because I don't know these 80-year-old men. However, I don't know a whole lot of people over the age of 18
that trade
that are
power.
training power.
Mm-hmm.
The ones I do know, like the head coach at on my football team, he's not weak. He's in his 50s, but you wouldn't want to mess with him. He's
Right.
a big, scary dude.
Yeah.
And he can move some weight. So, yeah. So there's that. The strength thing, BS too.
Yeah, I'm learning right now. Well, actually, I'm not learning right now. I knew this already, but we're learning together collectively through this podcast that I think all of these myths are BS.
That's right. They absolutely are. And I see this all the time. And what's so sad about this is I see it all the time in my patients. I think I talked about my 70-year-old patient that told me that I was the first person in the healthcare society to come in to her life and tell her that she can still do things. Everybody else is like, stop shoveling, stop mowing your grass, stop raking the leaves. You need to settle down. You're 70. And I said, that's stupid. Get excited for next ski season and let's do some intense yoga. And we were doing full lunges to airplane pose in yoga. And do you know airplane pose?
Yes.
It's hard.
It's hard.
It's hard for me.
It's hard. Yeah.
She's 70 and never did it in her life and was doing it with me.
That's incredible. I mean, like,
it's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, my stepdad is 70, I think, or maybe older than that. I don't remember. He's in his 70s and he is incredibly fit. He does he rakes, he shovels, he does yard work. He's always outside. He's always he goes to the gym. He is busting every myth on his own.
Of course. Yeah. It's crazy. Just
yeah.
Go, you want to see a 100-year-old run or an 80-year-old do pull-ups, just Google it online. You'll find it.
Yeah. And that's the crazy part. Cause I feel like when I talk to him, I'm always like, you're awesome. This is so cool that you can do all this stuff. And he's like, he always talks about how old he is. And I'm like, you're not old though. That is just your mindset. Look at all the things that you can do.
I watched a 55-year-old teacher the other week on TikTok. I watched a 55-year-old teacher, female, that's about your size, bench 225 pounds 8 times. And I was like, holy crap. I don't think I've ever seen a woman that is not looking like a power lifter, kind of big and bulky, bench that much weight. I was super impressed.
That's awesome.
And what an example she's setting for her students.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I've never seen a woman rep out 225 period, I don't think, but definitely not a woman your stature.
Yeah, I never have.
It's a lot of weight.
It's a lot of weight. Yeah. And I feel that getting old mentality is just it starts so young. Once you're over 25, basically, you're starting to be like, oh, I'm so old. I've said it. Oh, I'm so old. I'm almost 30. What the heck? Why do we say that? I'm 30. I'm not old. Do I look old? Do I act old? Travis, this is where you say no.
No, you don't.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. So why is this so important, Lauren?
Well, lots of reasons. I mean, it's independence. It's about self-worth. You can, with this information and this education and moving forward with helping your cognitive ability with these studies that we've learned, that you can use things to improve your memory and you can work out to keep your strength, you're decreasing healthcare costs, you're preventing falls and conditions such as osteoporosis and diabetes, dementia, and you're essentially delaying death.
Oh, you're definitely delaying death. So we've got a couple studies to back up all that stuff that Lauren just covered too. So how important is strength in the elderly people? So the study looked at the association between mobility, walking speed, hand grip strength, which is commonly studied for some reason and predicts a lot of things. I find it a weird one to study
I think so
instead of like
too.
your bicep strength or
I
something
know.
like that. Your ability to pick things up off the ground. But anyway, like I said, it predicts a lot of things. And they looked at knee extension strength, which is just kicking your knee strength or knee straight, and seeing how much strength you have that with. And they looked at it in 3 groups of elderly people between 75 and 84 years old. Excuse me. And they found that the risk of death was significantly related to difficulties in indoor and outdoor mobility among these groups. And the odds ratio for hand grip strength, knee extension strength, and walking time over 10 meters were also significant.
So we found another study that looked at determining the relationship of physical activity and muscle strength with the risk of falling in elderly people. They had 40 participants in this study. And the study basically showed that the more active the elderly people were and the greater their muscle strength, the smaller the risk of falling. Huh.
Shocking.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Isn't that like what you do for your job?
It's kind of what I do. Yeah, I train people not to fall. That is probably 60% of my job is training people not to fall. And it is probably my favorite thing to do.
That's
It's
awesome.
so fun. So another study looked at strength training and its effects on inflammation in the body and in cognition, which I think is two weird things to look at the same time, but that's okay. Other than inflammation in your brain can cause cognition problems. Anyway, this study investigated the effects of strength training on pro and anti-inflammatory cytokines, hematological markers, and physical fitness of older women with cognitive impairment. So these patients were already experiencing cognitive impairment. And this was a chair-based strength exercise program. And in 28 weeks, they divided 33 women into 2 different groups. One was the control group and one was the strength training exercise group. This was just strength training in chairs.
Yeah.
The strength exercise group increased the anti-inflammatory balance in older women simultaneously with an increase on their cognitive profile and better physical performance, even in the presence of cognitive impairment. So they improved their cognitive abilities when they already had cognitive impairment, just through exercise. They didn't do any studying.
And just in chair exercises.
They just exercised in chairs, which is like the lowest level of exercise you can do.
Right.
And it's a great place to start. And obviously it still works.
And it works, which is so awesome.
Yeah.
Then we have, oh my gosh, we just have so many studies. We have another study on strength training in the elderly, which looked at effects on strength, body composition, well-being, and function. This study looked at the implementation of high effort resistance training approach in older adults. So 23 older adults aged 61 to 80 years old completed a 6-month supervised resistance training intervention, applying progressive introduction of higher effort set endpoints. And after the completion of this intervention, the participants could choose whether they wanted to continue performing unsupervised until the 6-month follow-up. So at the end of the study, they showed strength, body composition, function, and well-being were all significantly improved over the intervention with supervision. That unsupervised time didn't really show any effects. But I think that was mostly due, if I'm not mistaken, that was mostly due to the fact that the supervised ones continued to progress like overload, as opposed to when they were unsupervised. I think they just kind of continued like repeating what they were ending at with their supervised. So they didn't continue to like progress.
very
over
low
it.
intensity.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah, like
forward.
Right. So I think
Makes
if
sense.
they continued to like progress their exercise, you maybe would have seen some different outcomes. But
train till failure.
Yes.
So another one that looked at strength training in elderly and the costs in the healthcare system estimates that a 10% reduction in strength lost through aging will save $1.1 billion per year in healthcare. 1.1 billion. That's an unfathomable amount of money. That's crazy amount of dollars to save just by getting people slightly less weak.
10%. That's
10%.
it.
That's crazy. I can improve 10% in like the next 3 months, and I'm starting at a high level.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I was almost speechless after that. Almost. I still have some things to say, including our next article that we were reading. This one, I just have to point out, I was reading it and I was like, the first thing it talked about. So it's talking about sarcopenia, which is basically muscle loss in like as you get older.
Fancy word for muscle loss. Yeah.
Yeah. So this article decided that the first thing it was going to say about it was that there's no FDA approved medication to treat sarcopenia.
Yes. This is because our society loves the magic pill or the magic cut in surgery. There is no magic pill. There is no magic cut. We've gone over the evidence for some medicines as being pretty garbage in the placebo episode.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, shocking. You can't just take a pill and become a bodybuilder.
Huh, really?
Who'd have thunk it? You actually got to work to build those muscles.
Yeah. So if sarcopenia is muscle loss, what you think you got to do? All types of exercise offer benefits for people with sarcopenia, but resistance and strength training works the best. That's what this article ended up going to say. But I had to point out
shocking reality.
Right. I had to point out that the first thing they went to was medication. I just okay.
Always. So another study showed walking in low intensity strength training reduced the risk of major mobility disability, which is tough to say, when compared with the health education group over the course of 2 years. So actually doing stuff was better than being told to do stuff, I guess, or just taught stuff. Not that big of a surprise. Doing usually surpasses studying, in my experience in life. Other observational studies suggest diet can also influence age-associated declines in muscle mass and strength. You need protein.
Yeah,
you need protein. Lack of protein increases inflammation, and flat out, you need protein to build muscle.
Right.
So it's kind of important. Lauren, is dementia normal?
No. I tried to be like you and be super excited about that, but no. There's a difference between like normal age-related forgetfulness and a serious memory problem.
I think we need to look at what normal age-related forgetfulness is, because like we said, we forget crap all the time.
Yeah, I already forget things.
I'm going to walk down to my kitchen later today, and I'm going to forget what I went there for. Or I'm going to go into my fridge, and I'm going to forget what I went there for. And you know what? I did it when I was 8,
I know,
10,
I was going to say
12,
that too.
14, 16, all the way up till 33, and I'm probably going to do it until I die.
Well, there's like a psychology thing that says like the walking through the door is like a reset for your brain, which is why people like forget when they walk into a room.
Oh, interesting.
I know this is off topic. Psychology was my bachelor's degree. That stuck with me because I've done that obviously since I was capable of remembering things.
And you never forgot the door thing, but you forgot when you walked through the door.
Good point. Yeah, so it's normal to forget things once in a while as we age, but serious memory problems make it hard to do everyday things like driving or using the phone and finding your way home.
Or
So,
remembering who your children are once you get like full-blown Alzheimer's or dementia.
right.
Yeah, that stuff's
Right.
scary. You want to prevent that. That's terrible.
Yeah.
For everybody involved.
Right. Yeah, that's a hard life for not only you, but the people that love you.
So, Lauren, at what age do we start getting weaker and dumb?
Well, PT school taught me 25, but I don't think that's true anymore.
No,
just gonna go out on a limb here and say I don't think that's true anymore.
Yeah, so we might lose a little bit of strength abilities and we might lose a little bit of intelligence, but the amount that we lose is far less than what society blames aging for. Generally, you lose much more because you stopped doing the things that made you strong. When's the last time you went out on a field and played football? Or when's the last time you ran a sprint? Like most people, most adults don't do these things.
Yeah.
So, of course, you're not going to sprint as fast as you did in high school. You're not going to have the endurance you did in high school if you stopped running.
Right.
If you haven't consistently tried to learn since high school, you're unpracticed, not stupid. I found this in returning to grad school. My first couple weeks of grad school, I thought I was too stupid to learn.
You did?
Yeah, because I was studying and it didn't seem to be clicking as fast as it used to. But I hadn't studied since sophomore year of college, which was 6 years before grad school.
Huh. That's funny because I remember asking you to help me study.
That is true. First semester.
That's so funny.
I thought I was too dumb to learn.
Apparently, I only had 6. Wait, I don't even know how long I had off, but apparently that little bit made me worse at learning than you.
Yeah, coming from the person that got straight A's. Anyway, Lauren, do you have anything else to add before we put our challenge of the week out there?
I don't think so. I think we've covered a lot of information really quickly, and it was extra fun because Travis was a little bit extra spicy. So what should we make our challenge?
So, challenge 1 is catch yourself when you say you're old. Reframe that statement as a positive. We shared an episode about the Florida study recently. And if you listen to that, you know how damaging just simple words can be. So let alone you saying, I'm too old to do this.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're saying stuff like that, say, instead, if you're saying, I'm too old to do a pull-up, say, I don't want to do a pull-up anymore.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with your age. You haven't done it in 20 years.
Yeah, exactly. And I think for this week, we should maybe do an extra challenge. Do a second challenge of sharing this episode with someone in your life that this would help. We all have people in our lives that are struggling with the mental aspects of coping with aging. Allow us to help them by sharing this information on aging being beautiful.
Awesome. I love that one. Well, thanks, Lauren. This was fun.
This was fun.
I hope everybody enjoyed it. And if you have not yet left a review for us, please do so on Apple or Audible or wherever you listen to podcasts. It really would help us reach more people. And we appreciate you listening again. Thanks, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to listen to this episode of the Health and Happiness Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the episode and are getting benefits from our content.
If your life is improving in part due to the information in this podcast, we would greatly appreciate you sharing the episode with your family and friends on social media and leaving us a review so we can continue to reach more people and improve the health and happiness of the community at large.
Thanks again, and we will see you next week for another episode of the Health and Happiness Podcast.